morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Hope you all had a great weekend. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning, and get your questions in, as we'll get to those here in a little bit. We're also going to talk some offensive line talk, as we're about halfway through spring ball. But before we get to that, guys, it was a big weekend for other reasons, as there's new commitments in multiple sports.
Yeah, we'll start with football. First 2027 commitment. It's not a quarterback, so a little moving off the target for Steve Sarkisian. But Taven Epps, the linebacker from Tustin, California, he has some ties to East Texas area through it in his family tree. But Taven Epps was on campus the last weekend of March for an unofficial visit. He looked really big and athletic getting off the golf cart that was taking him on a tour of campus. But you see him here, 6'4" and change, probably legitimate, seeing him in person, about 220. There's some people like last night on the live stream asking, is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? I think the question, Bobby, is he a linebacker or is he a linebacker edge combo, like some of those big guys that Kirby Smart and Nick Saban have had over the years? Because that's what he looks like to me long term.
Yeah, not just to those two. Like Jahad Campbell was the name that was mentioned last night that I thought was really good. But you'd also have to add guys like Anthony Hill that can do both, right? And so I feel like Texas, the bigger piece for me, and Jerry, you and I talked about this, is look, the big recruits early in a class the last 3 years for Texas, frankly, or even the last 4. Arch Manning from Louisiana, KJ Lacey from Mobile, Alabama, Dia Bell from South Florida, and now Taven Epps from Southern California.
Yeah.
Right. Texas they are becoming a national recruiting power. And you don't get early commitments from those types of players without the brand doing some speaking for you. And so I look at this. Yes, I like him as a player. That's obvious. But the larger trend for me, and this is something you and CJ and Jeff Howe have been talking about as well, with 41 official visitors coming in right now in the month of June for the University of Texas, more than half of those are from out of state.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is Texas trying to find the best in the state, but not being limited by state boundaries when they're going after elite prospects.
And I mean, look, here's the thing about it too, is Taven Epps, a kid who grew up part of his life in Texas, right? Has family ties to Texas. We talk about this all the time. So many people are moving around now. Like, is USC expected to keep a guy in state that's not really from the state, right? There's guys that are moving into Texas that they didn't grow up in Texas with A&M and jerseys on, A&M and Texas jerseys on. There's no guarantee those guys are staying in state. That's where we're at. So many kids, Kirby Smart faces that at Georgia. So many kids have moved into, families have moved into the Atlanta area. They're not all from the state of Georgia. They didn't grow up in the Peach State with Georgia jerseys on, right? I mean, and so it's different nowadays. But this is a guy who has ties to the state of Texas, and multiple ties to the state of Texas. Hey, Dave Etchie says that size is a junior. Yes, like 6'4" and change and 220 is a sophomore in high school going into his junior season. Somebody asked if he's going to be a big kid. Seeing him in person. Grant, I'm hoping Grant. I thought somebody would get a kick out of that. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's going to, if he doesn't weigh 245, 250 one day, it'll be a mild surprise. Seeing him in person, his frame is that. But there's a lot of kids that are moving in and out of these states. So when you look at guys who sometimes commit to an out-of-state school, there's a lot of factors that go into this nowadays. K-Stu says, here's a little news too. K-Stu's going to put out for us. Coach Jackson moved Chris Stewart's OV to June 20th. The wide receiver commitment from Shadow Creek, whose brother is a very talented safety as well. We're going to get to basketball recruiting in a second, but one more recruiting piece from the weekend. Nick Townsend ran 21.6 200 meters at his district meet. That's fully automatic time. 21.6 at 2:30, Bobby. That's moving, considering the guy who won it, Luke Hines, his teammate and friend, won it at 20.7, weighs 185. I mean, you're talking about a 45-pound weight difference there, but Nick Townsend is a total athletic freak. If you're putting up 21.6 FAT at 230, you go in the freak category athletically.
Look, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he makes of himself at Texas once he gets there. But to your point, Jerry, all those guys running track right now, getting ready now for regional meets, and those times we'll be sorting through those and seeing if we can cull any more recruiting information out of them. To be honest, Jerry, the basketball recruiting situation took a turn a little bit over the weekend, and I know they got a commitment last night from a 7-footer, and I want to talk about that. But the bigger piece to me over the last handful of days, starting really on Wednesday of last week, Tremont Mark announced he's coming back.
Yeah.
Jordan Pope announced he's coming back. Nick Cody announced he's coming back. Saturday, Kendall Weaver announced he's coming back. Now they are starting to add other pieces from elsewhere. Yeah. They got a forward from Purdue. They, of course, got the Don Swain out of Xavier that they wanted right away last week. And then last night, they got a big 7-footer from Florida Atlantic. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So this is we posted the roster update. We'll continue to update. This is the On Texas Basketball Instagram. So shout out, my kids actually doing a good job keeping the graphics, doing the graphics for that. But so you guys can see that I told them to make a roster. And so that's on the On Texas Basketball Instagram, as well as we'll bring it up on our show so it's easier for you guys to see. But yeah, Matas, I can't pronounce the last name. The 7-footer from Florida Atlantic was the AAC Freshman of the Year, originally from Lithuania, as you see there. Really came on second half of his college freshman year. Ended up averaging 10. You see there, 10 points, 5.5 rebounds per game. Only played 18 minutes a game, was very productive in his minutes. Got cut down on fouls, young big guy. But one thing I'll say about him, he's a right-handed player that can play over his right shoulder. He's got a good left hand. He finishes with the left. He's not uber athletic, but he doesn't have to be. He runs the floor hard, and he is physical. He plays through contact. He creates contact, sometimes too much on the defensive end. But this is a guy who is going to be at Texas multiple years. He'll be probably a 2-year player at Texas, and then he'll be an NBA prospect or a big-time overseas guy. So he is a really good addition. This Texas roster is going to have a ton of length. I think the next guy to jump in will be Lucina Traore, the 6'10", 245-pound power forward center that jumped in a portal from Xavier. He transferred from Long Beach State to Xavier. And one of the reasons Xavier's team wasn't quite as good as it could have been is he had a knee injury prior to the season and redshirted. But he was a guy that was doing really well at Xavier, and they were very excited about him. So that if Lucina Traore jumps on board as I think he will, things can change. That gives Texas really good. That makes them really good at center as far as a combination there. Big guys that can rebound, can play in the paint defensively, can hold position. But yeah, I think Camden Hyde is a really athletic kid who shoots the three. He's not going to do a ton off the dribble, but he is athletic. He's above the rim finisher, really good cutter, plays without the ball well. And there's a 39% 3-point shooter. Dalen Swain is 6'8", and he's getting projections. He's going to be mocked in NBA first rounds after next year if he continues on his trajectory. He's already in a couple of them. So Texas in the portal has gotten length. They've gotten athleticism. They've got a lot of size to go with the guys, the incoming freshman, John Clark, and your two bigs that'll be headed in the year 2 are power forwards, Nick Cody and Jamie Vinson. What Texas fans are going to see, and we talked about this when Sean Miller was hired, he's going to build a complete roster that has size and length everywhere, and he's also going to have an international component to it as well over time. But Texas fans are going to see the biggest, tallest, longest arm team at Texas in a long time when they go to the Moody next year. And again, along with Traore, who I think is a top target left on the interior, who'd be another 6'10" guy added to the roster, I think you'll see a combo guard that can shoot it, that has enough size, that has ball skills. And then that 13th scholarship, I think they'll take some time with that. But the roster's coming together really well in year 1 in a short amount of time. They're going to build. Sean Miller's going to build complete rosters over time at Texas, and you're already seeing that now that he knows how to put puzzle pieces together. But he's also got the thing I said last on a live stream is, when you have a lot of players that want to return, that are open to returning, that means they really like where they think the direction of the program is going under Sean Miller, because they all had meetings with Sean Miller and detailed meetings. The other thing I would say, and I said it last night, the Xavier staff, Sean Miller and the guys that came with him, probably watched 8 to 10 Texas games on tape before they played them in the playing game. If they kept players around, they feel like those guys are really good players and they can get even more out of them in his system.
All right, before we move on, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about our sponsor today, John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to thank John and his team at Longhorn Wealth Management. John's a proud Texas Exes Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are also UT grads. It's this family passion for Texas that led John to brand his firm, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, dedicating it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation for more than 30 years. John wants to congratulate our UT men's tennis team this past weekend for winning the SEC regular season championship, as well as a thank you to Coach Vic Schaefer and the Lady Longhorns basketball team for a fantastic season, culminating with their Final Four appearance. In honor of these Longhorn teams' great achievements, John wants to offer all OTF fans a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Call John and the Longhorn Wealth Team, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation with John today. Hook 'em from John Donovan and the group at Longhorn Wealth Management.
Hey, before we get into some spring ball talk, I think we need to congratulate Vic Schaefer, longtime friend of the show here on Coffee and Football, for a wonderful season. Of course, they fell short in South Carolina in the Final Four, but a heck of a season for his crew.
Oh, look, I mean, Jerry and I, we were talking about this last night. That is a team that first Final Four in 20 plus years. And I want to say this. I mean, when I was growing up in school and going to school at Texas women's basketball really was as good as anybody's in the country. And it kind of took a hiatus for about 15 to 20 years. And now it's back. And it's good to see that Vic Schaefer is doing that. He's doing it with very likable kids too, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, you can root for this team, and they play a brand of ball that puts it all out there on the floor for you. Yeah, congratulations to Coach Vic, his team, and the players. I think that they put Texas back on the map in basketball. I think, was that 4 Elite Eights in 5 years for Vic Schaefer. They'll have a team next year that's expected probably to return to the Final Four as well, with Maddie Booker expected back. But long story short, could not be happier for him and his team, because one of the things he wears it on his sleeve, man. He wears his love for his team on his sleeve, and you got to respect anybody that's willing to do that and put that out there like he does, in my opinion.
I was going to put this video up here real quick, guys. Them celebrating the season.
You're SEC champs, you're 35-4, and you went to the Final Four. That's all going to be on your ring. That's special. That's hard to do. So we're not gonna have one day does not define our team. One game does not define our team. You played a really good team today.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's they had a really, 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 really good season, and Vic has got the program now to where he can continue to build and ascend up. I think you'll look to see Texas add maybe a shooter, somebody else. Jordan Lee's going to be really good, right? Add another version of that to this team. Maybe have some college experience. See if Layla Filia is is able to come back from her injuries, because she would have added a lot of offense to this team. And look, you can't cry about injuries, because UConn would have won the thing 3 years in a row if Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd hadn't got hurt. They would have won the last two before this one. They'd be on a three title game heater right now. So injuries happen. It's a part of it with Layla Filia and Aaliyah Moore, but a great accomplishment. And I think Vic will, much like Kelvin Sampson, will continue to build through his tough culture. And then, like U of H, I added Milo Uzan out of the portal, was a big addition for them. They needed that point guard, that guy to get the shooting guard, the combo guard, more shots, like Cryer, more shots, more space, right? I think you're going to see Vic add to his team offensively to help them get to that next level over the hump, shooting the basketball. Because they had a great season. Leah Crump coming in is a really good player, and congrats to Vic.
Okay, guys, well, we talked or teased it, I guess I should say, at the beginning of the show, talking about spring ball. We're halfway through it. So let's talk O-line a little bit. Jerry, I'm going to let you lead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we Bobby, let's talk about, like, Trevor Goosby's locked in the left tackle, having a really good spring. We continue hearing Nick Brooks looks really good early on. Like, he's the number 2 at left tackle, like, really good. High hopes there. Left guard, we hear Neto's having a good spring, right? And at right guard, DJ Campbell. And then Nate Kibble is having a strong spring, got a chance to be a really good player. Center may have more depth than I've ever seen it have at Texas. I mean, Cole Hudson, Connor Robertson, and Daniel Cruz, I was told, to having a really good spring. Again, I think Cole Hudson's your starter, but I'm just saying Cruz is more than on track of where they want him to be. Right guard, obviously, DJ Campbell. Kibble's getting some looks there. Jaden Chapman also at the guard spots. And then at right tackle, Brandon Baker's working to hold off Andre Kojo. Brandon Baker, there's a lot of high hopes there for him. Kojo's a guy that we said it before spring practice that had his best offseason at Texas. He's finally 19 years old. I mean, let's just talk about that, Bobby. Finally 19. But this offensive line, they're having a really strong spring. Now, what does it mean? What will it mean against Ohio State next year? We can't say that, or first game of the season, but we're hearing good things about the offensive line this spring.
Well, I talk about, we're looking at this right tackle graphic. I think that's going to be the position, Jerry, that allows Texas potentially to become either it or not it, if that makes sense. Because I think that your keynote of all your notes there, the one that you mentioned that may be most positive, because I was waiting to hear some feedback, and that was on NATO, Omiozulu Zolau. I feel like if he is the answer, the defined answer at left guard, then everything shifts. The attention switches to, okay, what are they going to do at right tackle? Okay, we thought NATO would be the answer at left guard going into the spring. Hearing that he's having a good workout there so far is very encouraging. But what happens to that position at right tackle? I think Brandon Baker's going to be a true sophomore. Andre Kojo's young for his age. That is the only, and I don't want to say question mark because that's not fair, but that is the only position now where, okay, is Brandon Baker really going to step up and own that? Or is that going to be an argument that goes into fall camp? Because if NATO is stepping up, Cole Hudson's probably your guy at center. DJ Campbell's probably your guy at right guard. And Trevor Goosby, to your point, is the guy at left tackle. That would leave just that right tackle job kind of with a question mark around it at this point. So I like the note that NATO is moving forward, because that's something we had hoped, because he just has a demeanor on the football field that we saw in his very first game he ever played against OU, 2 years ago as a true freshman, where he's blocking guys into the end zone in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality can be contagious on a football team. And so you've kind of been waiting for that mentality to end up in the starting lineup, right? And be available to them. And so I think that mixed with DJ Campbell and Cole Hudson on the interior, could be really, really good news for the Longhorns.
The other thing I think I thought of with this conversation is Texas. I think there's a feeling that all three of those linemen in the 24 class are all going to be players, and that's
So
really
that's Nate Kibble,
Daniel
Daniel
Cruz and Brandon Baker.
Brandon Baker.
That's that. Hey, if they go 3 for 3 on guys who are quality players, now a couple of multi-year starters in there, maybe, maybe 3. We'll see. But if they hit on all 3 of those linemen, because that was a class that didn't get a lot of fanfare, right? Brandon Baker was highly ranked. Daniel Cruz should have been ranked higher. He's going to be a stud center. I've been saying that since I saw him in high school. No question about it. He just got to learn the position. And then Nate Kibble, who had no fanfare, wasn't an early enrollee. He had a tremendous redshirt year. So, and then you already hearing really positive things about Nick Brooks early on. So the future of the offensive line, the depth behind this starting group, and obviously Baker and Kojo are in a fight, and that's actually good news that Kojo's pushing Brandon Baker. That means Texas depth is going to be where they really want it to be. And then you have the other guys coming in. Jackson Christian was an early enrollee working, I believe, right guard. A young kid working at right guard. He may be working at both though in some practices. Then you have the Coleman twins coming in June, who are big bodied, that are going to be able to move people but need time, which is a perfect setup. And then you have the 2026 recruiting class coming. That's going to be 5 guys for sure, an outside shot at 6. So offensive line depth, I think, is building really nicely over the years for Texas. And I think you're going to see some really good young players start to hit the field for the Horns this year.
And that brings us some offensive line related questions this morning. Gilbert Martinez says, is offensive line the biggest question mark on the team?
I don't think so, Bobby. I think I would say,
what is the biggest question mark?
Kicker.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
you'd have been an SEC champion last year if you could have made a kick. When it counted.
I wouldn't put kicker as the biggest question mark though. I mean,
it's a big one. Maybe tight end.
I think tight end and corner.
Because Jordan Washington's injury. What do they get in the portal?
I'd go tight end.
Maybe corner opposite Manny, Jalen Gilbo, the young guys. How are they looking? I think Texas is really solid.
I think you have at kicker, you have potential answers. At tight end, you don't know if you have an answer of Jordan Washington. And I mean, Jordan Washington and Spencer Shannon haven't played enough to know if they're answers. I mean, they just haven't. And Nick Townsend's still running high school track. Emory Winston's a true freshman. I think tight end is by far. I actually think offensive line has a chance to be a relative strength of the team because they've recruited so well, guys. And they are not, even though I would add this about the offensive line, even though they are new starters, they're not terribly young.
Right.
So there's a difference between going out there and starting 4 freshmen or sophomores, right? As opposed to starting upperclassmen, which is what the depth that Texas has kind of built around. So I feel like tight end is the biggest one. I feel like wide receiver, once Wingo and Moore are back, is not going to be a question mark as long as those 2 are back. So I would go tight end, and then I would go corner opposite Manny Muhammad. I'm with Jerry. I mean, I want to see who's ready for that, and I don't know if anyone is. That's what we're going to have to see. Especially, I want to add this about both of those positions, tight end and cornerback. They were very good positions a year ago. And so that makes the question marks bigger or more pronounced, right? Because you don't know. I mean, Gunnar Helm had a record-setting season last year. Jade Barron won the Thorpe. Those are big shoes to fill. And so I think the bigger question mark becomes those, for me at least.
I will say this, and it's going to change when the playoff goes to 16. But, and I'm not crushing the kicker, but I just want one thought on this. If Texas makes the kick and wins the SEC championship, Cam Williams doesn't get hurt against Clemson.
Yeah.
And Texas doesn't play that game. How did that impact you later in the playoffs? It did. Couldn't.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously his knee was bad. Couldn't move laterally well. He wouldn't. That injury probably doesn't happen if you win the SEC championship. You get the bye.
Well, that's going down the rabbit hole now.
It happened.
Oh man. All right, guys. So as we get closer to the NFL draft here, NFL.com came out with a new mock draft, guys. And I don't have the screenshots ready, but I'm going to read it to y'all because I find something very interesting. And again, this is from the NFL Network. So Kelvin Banks, number 13 overall to the Cardinals. And then you have, after that, Jahdae Barron going 16 to the Dolphins. And then after that one, you have Matthew Golden going 27 to the Bills. But here's where it gets interesting and something that we haven't seen in any mock draft that we've done recently. So they have, with the 32 in the final first round pick, they have the Eagles having a trade with the Rams, and the Rams taking Isaiah Bond with the last pick of the first round.
Look, I don't know if Isaiah Bond's going for last pick of the first round or not, but we talked about this, Bobby, coming out of Pro Day. He may have helped himself more than any other player because, look, the last half of the season, he was injured. The season didn't end well. He was on pace for 1,000-yard season when he went down against OU, by the way, on a longer season, but he would have got to 1,000. But the Pro Day probably helped him more than anybody else because he got that 40 to 4.34, and he looked tremendous running routes for Quinn Ewers that day. He looked explosive, and I think it was noticeable how explosive he looked, and he caught the ball, hands extended away from his body. He's not a 50-50 ball winner. It's all scheme dependent for him. But he looked really good in Pro Day.
He did, and don't forget, even though he did not run the fastest 40, he had the fastest speed, the actual speed in miles per hour of I think everybody at the combine except for maybe the corner from Kentucky. My point being, look, and Sean McVay, if you're talking about the Rams wanting him, Sean McVay treasures speed, just kind of like Miami Dolphins do. So that would make sense. Here's what I would say about all that. That mock draft had Banks going 13, Barron going 16, Golden going 27, and Isaiah Bond going 32. All well and good. Matthew Golden's not lasting to 27. So all of these mock drafts, the number 1 or number 2 receiver in this draft is not lasting to number 27. So just throw mock drafts like that. He just got invited to go to Green Bay for the draft yesterday and accepted the invite. They don't invite guys like that anymore unless they think they're going to be top 15 picks. I'm just Matthew Golden. There's a guy, Steve Smith does a tremendous job evaluating wide receivers. Matthew Golden's his guy this year. And it's because he is an exacting route runner. He maximizes. He has great hands. Look, I don't know that he's a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, but I guarantee you that he's just not going to last to 27. You don't run a 4.29 and last to number 27 as a wide receiver, and not with a productive year. Would be one thing if you were some speed guy that didn't do much. Matthew Golden did a lot. And he came up big in the biggest games of the year, by the way. So, you can say what you want, but he's going to be gone sooner than 27. And I'd wager big money on that.
So this is a 5-round draft, and I got to looking in round 2. We'll talk about it. They have Quinn Ewers going 35 overall to the Seahawks, followed by Alfred Collins going 42 overall to the Jets. And then the last one here for the second round is Jaden Blue going 51st to the Broncos.
See, Jerry, remember when we were talking about that with Jaden Blue? Like, is he even going to get drafted? What happens when you go run like they run?
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL rewards mismatches as much as any league out there. They reward mismatches, and Jaden Blue against a linebacker in coverage is going to be a mismatch, and he scores touchdowns. If he goes to the second round, in a draft full of running backs that are freaks, by the way, I mean, this is not a average running back class. If he goes in the second round, that'll be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just not, but I get what people are saying. That's just not it for me, but that high, but I get what people are saying.
And then looking at round 3, guys, only one Longhorn taken. 82nd overall going to the Seahawks. They have Cam Williams. That's the only one in the 3rd round. And then the only other 2 Longhorns taken in this 5-round mock are in round 4. They have Makuba going to the Bengals at 119, and then Gunnar Helm going to the Rams at 127.
There we go. See, there's another Rams in the Longhorns, by the way. That would make a lot of sense.
The key here is, will Texas get 10 guys drafted? Will they have double-digit draft?
And that's 10 right there.
Yeah, I mean, so they're going to get double digits drafted once again. I think we're headed that direction. Could it get to 11 potentially? Could it maybe even find 12? Barron Sorrell, right? So could we get to 12? Not out of the question. So it's trending like we talked about. Going to be the most draft picks ever for Texas in their history, coming off a year where they had the most guys drafted in program history, back to back.
Well, before we get to some questions here, Jerry, if you're ready, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Gooder.
I can. I don't have my shades today. They're in the car looking up at the sun right now where they should be. But why should you want Gooder? Stylish sunnies starting at only $25 a pair. 1 year free warranty. I just got to read it. 30-day free returns. They tell me I have to read that too. You don't need either one, but that's a guarantee if you need the guarantee. Features of the Gooders. They're lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce. From vibrant colors to sleek styles, they're a pair of Gooders for every personality, designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and much, much more. So the question becomes, when do you wear your goodies? I can tell you when I wear mine: walking, biking, covering recruiting on the 40 acres this weekend. What if you're going to the beach, on a hike, playing pickleball, on a run? Because they're so affordable, you don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. Drop one in the ocean, can't find it, $25, go get your other pair. Not $300 sunglasses, which you're digging in the sand for. And then you come away with sand fleas. If you need a new pair of sunnies, Gooder is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to Gooder.com/OnTexas, all caps, and use that code OnTexas for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Change it to 1,000 out of 0. Again, that's Gooder.com/OnTexas. Use that code OnTexas for free shipping.
And I'm also going to let everyone out there know about Timeline's MitoPure. If you work out, it's a supplement that you're going to want to add to your daily regimen because it supports your health at the foundation by encouraging cellular renewal. Even if you don't work out, you need to add MitoPure to your daily routine. MitoPure is a precise dose of the rare postbiotic urolithin A. It works by promoting an essential cellular cleanup process that clears out your cell's battery pack. There's a lot of products out there that claim to make you stronger, or maybe they claim to pack on muscle, but Timeline's MitoPure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. They don't just claim it, they deliver on it. And I can tell you that I personally love it because I recover much more quickly from my workouts. I can tell a tremendous difference with it. I also have a lot more energy because of it, which is obviously an added bonus as well. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. Awaken the strength, power, and resilience already in you with the first and only supplement clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. And right now, Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure. All you have to do, just go to timeline.com/OnTexas. That's TIMELINE.com/OnTexas livestream.com/ontexas to take advantage of that 10% offer today. Well, we have some super chats that we need to
Let's
get
do
to
it.
this morning. And Jerry, Jack's going to put you on the spot right out of the gate. Thank you, Jack, for the super chat. How many highs do we have?
One for sure. Yeah, one for sure.
Class of 2026.
Yeah, in football.
I
think we got one in basketball too. All right, keep going.
There we go. Hey, Jerry, just to riff off of that right now, I was talking to someone yesterday. Texas men's football right now, or football generally, getting ready for the portal to open April 16th. Texas expected to be fairly aggressive. Texas did not get Stanford edge David Bailey last week. I'm being told that Texas Tech went above and beyond what anybody would be willing to do from an NIL perspective. They're trying to flex their muscle in that capacity, given that you have to go to Texas Tech and live in Lubbock for 7 months. But my point being here that Texas seems to have an idea. I'm being told behind the scenes about what they want to do exactly in the portal. I think wide receiver is certainly one. I think tight end is one. And then I think interior defensive line. We've been harping on those three positions. I heard nothing over the weekend that would lead me to believe any different. Some people have said, well, would Texas go to 2 wide receivers now that Ryan Wingo's been out? I did not get that inclination over the weekend. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what all this means for Steve Sarkisian and his staff. But I think they've got some very pointed ideas about what they want to accomplish on beginning April 16th when the portal opens.
And that kind of goes to the question Ike Arelis asked, any young wide receiver making plays, stepping up. The reason you only go 1 wide receiver in the portal is you really like your freshman class. If you didn't like them, you'd go 2, but they really like some of those guys, and they think they did very well. Now, they are not all 3 of those guys, and Michael Terry will see long-term what he ends up being. That's a development process for him. But the guys who have played exclusively wide receiver in this class, Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, Khalid Lockett, Texas likes all those guys. They think they did well in wide receiver recruiting. So you assume DeAndre Moore and Ryan Winger are healthy next year. Parker Livingstone's in the circle of trust somewhere as in the rotation. You really need one of those guys to have a prominent role for you if you had another receiver in the portal and another guy to be a secondary role on the team. So if they really like their freshman receiver group and they think they have real players there, then you're only going to take 1 wide in the portal.
As long as you think that DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo are going to be healthy.
Yeah.
I do think they want to go at least 4 healthy wide receivers, 5 healthy wide receivers they can count on going into fall camp. One of these freshmen have to step up because I think they know right now Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, Parker Livingstone are 3. They're going to be ready to play. And as long as there's no major injuries, right? Those 3 are going to be ready to go in fall camp. They have 1 more via the transfer portal. That'll be 4. They need 5, in my opinion. So that means one of these freshmen need to step up or they will go to the portal, is the best I could see. We've been told at this point, Dalen McCutcheon and Jamie French both playing really, really well. I'm waiting to hear more on Michael Terry and Khalid Lockett at this point.
And on a somewhat related portal note, Jack, thank you again. Bobby Jerry, my favorite NASCAR driver. Given that the Stanford guy chose tech academics, do you think that Lance Jackson could see considerable time at defensive end by mid-season?
I think, look, there's a possibility him or Justice Terry as a big power end. Zena, where's Zena going to be at? He had very high hopes for him headed into the spring. Colton Vossick's health is a big part of the edge depth and rotation. What's Colton Vossick's health? That's always going to be we don't know till he has a fully healthy season, similar to where Jay Witt was early in his Texas career. But I do think one of those guys, either Justice Terry or Lance Jackson, from that power, edge, standpoint, interior, rusher, and NASCAR package will be a factor for Texas as the season moves along. I do. Too talented not to have a role on the team.
And let's see here. Our next question comes from David Keith Williams. He says, Mayo Hamilton, do you think that Texas could improve in 2026 and perhaps finally win the championship if Rory Harmon does return for an additional season and Aaliyah Crump becomes a difference maker?
Before I answer that, Blake, we expecting something out of Rory soon?
I think we are. So, I think it was last week I reported on Texas football that I didn't expect Rory to come back this upcoming season. However, I got a word this morning that things may have changed on that front, and we'll know something very soon, possibly today. So,
yeah,
be on the lookout for that.
So, are you hearing that she's leaning to go in that direction, or what do you?
Yeah, that she most likely will be coming back now. That I don't know obviously what happened between last week and today, but something obviously, because a source I talked to this morning felt pretty optimistic about her return in 2025-26 season.
That'll be an interesting decision. But as far as David Keith's question, I think Aaliyah Crump will be a really good player. I watched her a little bit I've watched her on tape, watched the Montverde, watched the McDonald girls game. A really good player, 6'1". She's going to play within a system. She's not going to be a volume shooter, volume player offensively, but it's a really good player. I think the portal is going to be huge, though. Or Layla Filia's health and the portal. I think Texas really has to add that shooter, that secondary scorer to Madison Booker. And it was going to be Layla Filia. I mean, she was first team all Big Ten in a great conference and averaged, 17, 18 a game. And then that injury took a lot away from the Texas from a scoring capability standpoint. But now I think they're either going to need to know she's healthy or add another shooter in the portal. Now, Layla Field is not just a shooter. She's a scorer. She has an offensive game, a complete game. But add a shooter. I think Jordan Lee will probably move into a starting role next year and be a really good player. But I think they're going to need to add one more in that offensive component. And if they do that, then they'll have a legitimate chance to compete. Because, I mean, look, UConn's going to be tremendous, but Paige Beckers is gone. But Fudd and Sarah Strong and their returnees are really, really talented. But Paige Beckers was the best player in the tournament. So they lose the best player. South Carolina obviously will reload. LSU's really reloading as well. So we'll see. But I think Vic's got a little work to do in the portal to get there offensively.
And our next question is a super chat from Edgar. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And he says, good morning, OTF. With some coaching changes, can you share your thoughts on coach-to-coach chemistry and how head coaches manage all those type A's? What position will benefit the most from development? Hook 'em.
Edgar, thanks for the super chat, first of all. You're right. I wrote an article this morning about Jim Schlossnagle, and it wasn't solely about him, but think back to a year ago and where Texas was in baseball. I wrote Texas was absolutely rudderless in baseball a year ago today. Today, they're 11-1 in the conference, the nation's premier conference, by the way. And they look poised to be really, really good for a long period of time because recruiting is on the right track as well. And so what I'm getting at here is Jim Schlossnagle is a type A in that category. Steve Sarkisian, type A. Sean Miller, I think, is that way. Vic Schaefer clearly is. Jarrett Elliott and Mike White in softball, and Jarrett Elliott and Bob Bowman in swimming and diving. All those guys are, right? And what I would say is, how do you keep them interested? You make it a competition among themselves. Who's the best? Who's gonna outdo one another while staying out of their lane? So don't go talk to Jim Schlossnagle about baseball, and don't mix it with basketball and don't mix it, and let them go do their thing and let them kind of coexist and support one another from that standpoint. No one coach overpowering another, etc. And so I think that's helped. I think Steve Sarkisian's done a nice job of that, by the way. He easily could be the dominant coach on the 40 acres if he wanted to be, because football is the sport at Texas. Whether people want to like that or not, sometimes it is what it is. And so I think that Sark does a good job of supporting others. It makes it a more collegial atmosphere. And so that's where I come out on the coaching staff. Those guys all, and ladies, all want to win. And I think that they respect that about one another and expect to at a high level. I mean, you don't think Mike White, he got the number 1 or 2 softball team in the country right now? They just swept Missouri over the weekend. You don't think he doesn't look at Jim Schlossnagle and go, he's doing a good job? And Jim Schlossnagle doesn't look at Mike White and go, he's doing a good job. There's a mutual respect there when you're winning in your sport. It's just the way it works.
Hey, I want to hit a couple of things, Blake, real questions. March Madness and Jory, rumors that was Gino's last game coaching ever year. I would not know on that, but I will say this. I would love to see the guy retire now, not for so Texas or anybody else could win it. The guy won his 12th national championship. He's 71 years old. Man, go tell everybody on TV how to do it for the rest of your days, man. I mean, go out on top, man. Go out on top. That's going out on 12 national championships is one of the most unbelievable things you'll ever see. Hey, could you bring up the basketball roster again real quick? Yes, UCLA and USC and women's are going to be really good too. But we've had a couple people ask about the big man. Yes, Matas. I won't pronounce his last name correctly, but this is your updated basketball roster. That's on Texas Basketball Instagram too, where we keep some of that up with graphics. But they added the 7-footer Matas. I think they will add another 6'10" guy here shortly, and then one more combo guard to this roster that's going to have a little size, that can shoot it, and that has ball handling skills. I think that's where this roster's headed. 13 scholarship, best available. But Texas is you're already seeing, and this is a short amount of time, what's Sean Miller going to do when he has a full year to build a roster? He's building a really big, long limb, versatile roster with bigs. They're going to be able to compete in the SEC. And what I like with these 3 portal guys is Camden Hyde is a 2-year guy. Dalen Swain may go pro after next year, could be a 2-year guy. He's already in some NBA mock drafts in the first round, and he has that ability. Matas should be a 2-year guy, right? So they're building these young bigs, Jamie Vincent, Nick Cody, John Clark, multi-year guys. So Texas is building that. They're going with experienced guards in year 1, really experienced guards in year 1, and then they're building it around it. So they have some developmental time with some of these bigs and some of these forwards. So what Leo asked, will Texas grab a true point guard? Look, I mean, Florida's playing in a national championship without a true point guard. You don't have to have a true point guard anymore. You have to have a bunch of combo guards that know how to run your offense and all can help create and do it within an offensive system, not isolation basketball. So I'm not sure you're going to see what people want to define as a true point guard. I think you're going to see a bunch of combo guards running an offense. Now, that doesn't mean if some great high school point guard doesn't pop up in 26 or 27 in the state of Texas, which there may be that guy, that you aren't going to see Texas take that guy. But I don't think that's going to be the every year roster build, because if you look around college basketball, it's really not.
Well, speaking of college basketball, Houston Cougars play for the national championship tonight. They've got a game against the Florida Gators. Jerry and Blake, I don't know who y'all have in that matchup, but I will say this. The Cougars had a hell of a game on Saturday night. Hell of a comeback. The largest comeback ever, 14 points in a Final Four game. And Kelvin Sampson, good luck to the Cougars. I'll just say it. I'm not a Houston fan. I grew up a little bit in the era of Phi Slamma Jamma. So I like University of Texas football, and I grew up in Houston. I like Phi Slamma Jamma basketball when I was a I don't think you couldn't like the Houston Oilers and Houston Cougar basketball back when I was growing up, if you were that age. But good luck to those guys tonight. Big game in San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, I remain the same. Who's going to win the game? It all depends on. This is another contrast in styles game. And look, Duke choked. Any good comeback, a team has to play hard and make plays. That's a given, right? Duke choked the game. Let's be real. So, but that doesn't mean Kelvin Sampson's not going to win a national title tonight either. But Duke did choke that game. And Shire's got to live with that one for a while until he gets back, because he may not have a player as good as Cooper Flagg ever again. And he had a 6'3" guy on him. All he had to do was throw it to his outside shoulder along the sideline, and that would have been a foul, and they'd have played through it. He got cute, and it cost him. But that's another story. He's got to live with that, not me. U of H, Florida is going to be just like any U of H game against a quality opponent. They want to play the game in the high 60s, 70, 71, 72-point range against these teams that are really high scoring and try to get up and down. If they can do that, their win probability goes way up. If Florida can get the game into the 80s, that means they're hitting shots against good defense. Then U of H's win probability is going to go way down. It's a contrast in styles, and it's just similar to the Duke game. So if they can keep that game in the high 60s, low 70s, U of H's win probability goes way up. If it's played more in Florida's pace, then U of H's probability goes down. So who's going to win? Who can control the pace? Who's going to make shots? Gets contested defense, and the initial reaction is going to be, well, U of H's defense will be too good for Florida, right? Walter Clayton made unbelievable shots against great defense against Auburn, like contested shots all over the court. Florida's going to have to make contested shots. So is U of H. You got to make contested shots, but it's going to be a game of contrast of styles. Saxon's got to keep that score in the high 60s, low 70s. If he does, his probability is way up.
Florida's a 1.5-point favorite in the matchup. So it's essentially a toss-up game. But Florida 1.5-point favorite in Vegas. They must think Clayton is going to be good enough, Jerry.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think that the Cougars are too athletic around the rim compared to Florida. That Florida really got away from, if Clayton can't score, and if you can corral Clayton, Florida's bigs have to score. And I think I could be wrong, but I think Cougars have it on the interior.
Cognin's ankle's not well. That hurts Florida for sure.
Yeah.
All right, before we get to some more questions here, Bobby, I'm going to tell everyone out there about one of our new sponsors, Pesty.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Blake. I appreciate it, buddy. Pesty is actually a company that I just started using a couple of weeks ago. What they do is they give you a kit to help keep pests and bugs away from your home. So if you use a service or what have you, this is actually a cheaper way, less expensive way to keep out the ants. We've had a lot of rain here where I live of late, and sometimes we get ant problems. Using Pesty has completely eliminated that. Nobody likes being bugged, especially by bugs. When they do show up, you want them gone fast. With Pesty's do-it-yourself pest control, you can protect your home easily and at a quarter of the cost. Other pest control companies charge over $800 per year, but with Pesty, you can get started at just $35 per treatment with a customized plan based on your location, bugs, and climate. Everything you need is provided in one simple kit. Protect your home from bugs with Pesty. Go to pesty.com/OTF for an extra 10% off your order. That's Pesty, PESTIE.com/OTF for an extra 10% off. They get rid of over 100 types of bugs. Pesty is kid and pet friendly and offers a 100% bug-free guarantee or your money back. The kit includes a sprayer, mixing bag, pesticide, gloves, and instructions. You can complete all of it within 10 minutes or less. That is a self-directed prescription for bugs in your home. Again, pesty.com/OTF. Thank you to them for their sponsorship of On Texas Football. I would add this, guys. It is very, very simple and easy to get done. It literally did take me about 15 minutes They said 10 minutes in the commercial, but it took 15 minutes after you read the instructions. And I'm a slow guy sometimes, so I had to read the instructions.
Well, more questions to get to this morning, including a couple more super chats. We're going to start with this one here from Juan Garza. Thank you, Juan. He says, Blake, what do you think of Texas baseball so far, and how do they match up with Arkansas in a couple of weeks? And on that note, we have some new polls this morning before I answer your question, Juan. Arkansas number 1, Texas number 2. So if that holds pat, then that's a big matchup looming here for the Longhorns. But I think that they are playing great. I said in the chat earlier this morning, I don't even think they're close to peaking yet. Of course, they have Adrian Rodriguez and Max Ballou still out. They whoop up on Georgia, sweep the series from them without 2 of their better players there. And so, yeah, I think the sky is the limit. Of course, it's all going to come down to pitching. As far as Arkansas goes, you know, their offense is scary, just like Georgia's. I mean, their bats really came alive against Missouri this past weekend. Granted, it is Missouri, but unlike Georgia, I think their pitching is elite. Zach Root has been phenomenal. Texas tried to get him this offseason, but then he chose the Razorbacks. But they'll have their work cut out for them. We'll have to see what happens. I was looking at RPI projections, and they actually have Texas losing that series. But I do believe they had Texas losing to Georgia too. So hopefully the same outcome there, or Texas wins that one. But we shall see, Juan.
Keep that graphic. You don't see Troy in the top 25 in the big 3 sports very often. So congrats to Troy. They were in there maybe in football a couple of times over the years in that 20-25 range. But Troy, top 25 in baseball. Congrats to them, man.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. And then we have another baseball super chat. And this one comes from Jackson S. Thank you, Jackson. Have y'all booked your tickets to Omaha yet? I'll buy breakfast opening day if I'm still living up here. I really hope to at least make it for a day or two, Jackson. I will be in Fayetteville for the first week of that, as we have a baseball tournament up there.
Hey, Colt, we need to say congratulations to your son, by the way.
Yes.
Blake Monroe. For those unaware, Blake's son, Colt, is a baseball player of some value. Did he not make a national team here recently? Was he a 9th grader? Is that right? 8th grader?
He's a sophomore. He is a sophomore, but yeah, he made the Patriots national team. So he will be traveling all over. I know, like I said, we'll be in Fayetteville. I think we go to East Cobb, Georgia, Arizona, and then there's, luckily a few in Texas as well. But
coffee and football from the campus of Arkansas and Arizona State for you this summer.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I was telling my wife.
I'll tell you the spot at Arizona State. There's a great backdrop for that one.
There you go. Yeah, I was telling my wife that on the way to Georgia, because we'll go right through Tuscaloosa. I said we'll have to make a few stops along the way and maybe host coffee and football from a couple of random college campuses.
Yes.
Hey, speaking of college campuses, there's some. We need to talk about this. There's some spring games going on this week.
Yeah.
Georgia has theirs, I believe. Florida has theirs. Ohio State has theirs as well. So while Texas is not doing a quote unquote spring game, at least in the typical sense, there are going to be quite a few that finish up their spring. And maybe that's one of the reasons why is the portal opens on April 16th. So they'll have their games on April 11th. Portal opens April 16th. See how it all goes.
Blake, do you have the list of some spring games?
Well, I'm trying to make it work with my screen, but it's not. So I will tell you all this weekend alone, just in the SEC, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, and Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt all have their spring games this week.
Yeah, it's a big weekend for spring games. A lot of unofficial visitors scattered around the SEC. Texas will have a lot of kids in as well, which we'll talk about. Casey says, I actually have an answer to this. How's the construction of the new practice facility going? Very dusty. I did 2 live streams in Austin last week when I was there. I guess it was last week. And it's very loud and it's very dusty. But they have broken ground and it looks like it's well on its way. they're kind of laying the foundations of everything right now. But very dusty. I'll say that. Not good for your eyes if you're not wearing Gooders.
All right, our next super chat comes from KD35. I am the best. Thank you for the super chat. And KD says, let's look at second-year guys expected to make a jump. Are you hearing about any of them that might be getting passed up by freshmen or redshirt freshmen?
Good. This is a fair question. Aaron Butler, I think, is a one to circle at wide receiver based on what we've heard and seen a little bit. I think the running backs with Christian Clark have been pretty good. I don't know that James Simon or Ricky Stewart has taken over any of those guys. Offensive line, Nate Kibble seems to maybe bypass some people, Jerry, that were in that original freshman class. Any others that you can think of that you would put in that category? DB, any of those guys? Cade Phillips has come on really, really strong, but I don't know that he's passed anybody officially yet.
Yeah. Look, I guess I would, we talked about Parker Livingstone and Aaron Butler, wide receiver, who is going to make their move there. Parker Livingstone more is in the rotation now. I think Aaron Butler's got more of a battle there. Can Jarrett Gibson hold off Christian Clark once the season begins? There's that one, even though they're in the same class. But KD's asking for second-year guys expected to make a jump. Looking at the safety, you have Jelani McDonald and Michael Taft, or Jordan Johnson-Rubel will be one of those guys. Is Xavier Filsaime going to solidify that rotational job? Or any of those second-year corners, any of those young corners, the Santana Wilsons, are they going to maybe beat out a Warren Roberson and be a second-team guy? Some of those things have to play out. I think Ty Anthony Smith is going to be really, really good. Continue to hear good things about him. Obviously, he's got a junior in front of him and a couple of juniors in front of him as well. So Alex January, we think, is going to be a really good player. Melvin Hills will be a rotational player. So I think some of those guys, I think there's a lot of guys in that class that are going to be in the two deep. How many are actually going to push for a lot of snaps this season? We'll see. Alex January will be one. I think Ty Anthony Smith will get more snaps than last year. Zena coming off a redshirt year, potentially in fall camp. But there's a number. I think that class is coming on for Texas.
I think Nate Kibble is now probably ahead of Connor Stroh and Jaden Chapman at some level. Now, Chapman is a guy that can play both sides of the line in multiple positions. So it's a little bit different. But I think he's definitely ahead of Stroh and maybe Ogbo. So I think he's kind of making a move.
Wardell Mack. Somebody mentioned Wardell Mack. We should have mentioned him. Yeah, I mean, he was the first team at nickel in the first week of practice.
Let's see how that sticks, too.
Yeah. That's going to depend on Gilbo at corner.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question here comes from Dwayne, and he wants to know who's going to be the punt returner on this year's team.
I think Steve Sarkisian and Jeff Banks want to know too.
I've been predicting Jonah Williams. I've been predicting Jonah Williams for a while. I think that's good. He's very natural at it, fearless, played a lot of center field in baseball, tracks it well. I won't surprise me if Jonah Williams isn't a big part of that once he actually gets on the field in August.
I bet odds are right now DeAndre Moore for me. Not that Jonah Williams couldn't long-term be better, but given that Jonah
Game
Williams,
one at Ohio State.
Game
one at Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're gonna put a guy out there that's played before. Most likely.
And then Sailor Joe says, if we have 2 weeks left of spring practice, what do we want to see or hear, especially with the spring portal opening next week?
Yeah, that's great. DBs kind of coming together is a big one for me because they were so darn good last year. Jerry talked about it. Is it Jalen Gilbo opposite Manny Muhammad, or is it going to be Kobe Black or Cade Phillips even, or Warren Roberson? I mean, who's going to be opposite that? And how are they kind of coalescing and combining together? Because I think ultimately that was probably that and the pass rush were probably the two biggest things for the Texas defense last year. I think they're going to keep having a pass rush. I'm not worried about that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I want to see how Arch is doing with such young receivers right now. I mean, not just he doesn't have just young wide receivers. He's got young tight ends, theoretically. So how he gets on the same page with those guys, and if they can make a dent, I think will be important. But the great thing about Texas right now is you don't have to have a lot of these elite answers, because you got to remember too that that spring ball is a zero-sum game. If your offense is doing well, that means your defense is doing bad. If your defense is doing well and your offense can't throw the football, that's not necessarily what you want. Is competitive practices. I think that they're getting that based on just the talent alone. A lot of the concern I used to have over spring ball has been mitigated by the fact that they've got so much talent. We don't know. I mean, we can sit here and talk about Justice Terry, and Jerry mentioned him earlier. Justice Terry's he's 18 years old. He's going to look physically different in 3 months. He just will. And so a lot of what I want to hear is more about just individual player development and some level of cohesiveness created in the offensive line. Jerry mentioned Nada Umeozulu coming on a little bit earlier. Those are the kind of things that you need to happen so that the position groups as a whole can be strong.
Okay, and then we have a question from James Henson. And James says, Jerry and Bobby, can y'all give a reality check on our wealth at edge compared to the edges we had in 2021? Hook 'em.
2020. Well,
Was
that Jacoby Jones?
For the edges in 2021.
Yeah, Jacoby Jones and Jet Bush, right? And a young Baron Sorrell. Those they did not have. There's like, no offense to those guys, but they and I will say this: those players were not recruited to be in a Pete Kwiatkowski style of defense. So they were recruited by Todd Orlando to be in a Todd Orlando style of defense. And Baron Sorrell was very young, right? So you can't count on a true freshman like that. It's like an A to A plus versus a D minus to F.
Yeah.
No offense, but they had nobody at edge.
Yeah.
They got killed at Arkansas because of that. I mean, just slaughtered. As soon as Jacoby Jones went out that season, they were toast on run defense. I mean, I just remember that Oklahoma State game in Austin. Texas goes up, has there we go. Ovi Ogufu, literally, I mean, he couldn't handle the run. Ben Davis played like 20 plays that year. Prince Dorba was a young player and is now a good player for Arizona State, but he was young.
And a Big 12 size kid, not an SEC size kid.
Yes.
Yeah. Jacoby Jones was the one SEC size
ish
guy.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, Ben Davis hurt a ton coming out of high school or at Alabama. He was never going to be a healthy player. But yeah, and then Jacoby Jones got injured at Texas part of that time. So
they played Jet Bush at defensive end in that group.
Yeah.
Listed as a linebacker. That's how they were forced that. So you asked me to compare it. It's like,
nah, you can't.
A to A plus versus D to F.
I mean, the reality there is no NFL players on that list. Texas has probably 4 or 5 right now, future guys.
Amazing.
Okay. Before we get to our last few questions of the day, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Longhorn Wealth Management Group one last time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Blake. Thank you very much. And thank you to our sponsor each and every Monday. That is John Donovan and the friends over at Longhorn Wealth Management. John served the Dallas, Texas Exes board for 15 years and now is helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas Exodus chapter. As expected, UT football recruiting is shifting into high gear. Felix Ojo had a great visit on the 40 acres this past weekend. Then UT landed a 2027 commit from Taven Epps on Sunday. To celebrate UT recruiting momentum, John wants to give all OTF fans an opportunity to optimize their own financial futures by taking advantage of a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you identify and implement strategies and solutions you need to ensure you achieve all of your wealth management goals and dreams, including ensuring your retirement vision and securing your estate planning and legacy wealth transfer desires. Call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation today. That's 972-707-4900, or online, www.longhornwealth.net. Thanks, John. He says hook 'em to everybody out there.
I'll follow up since Felix Ojo was mentioned. Somebody asked about Ojo. Look, in offensive line, how it's all going to turn out. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to really know yet. But and the reason I say that is the big game hunting portion of this stuff is happening beginning in May with official visits through June. And the way I look at offensive line recruiting for Texas is, and I just put up an article on TexasFootball.com before the show, if y'all want to go get involved in the conversation, if you aren't a member, is, look, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you how it was all going to work out. I don't think Texas knows how it's going to work out. But I think my key with this is they're in on really good prospects. And no matter who your favorite player is in the chat, or who I think may be the best player, it doesn't matter. Texas is in on the right guys. And I don't have any doubt they're going to make the right 5 fit. Who that is, man, look, all these guys. I mean, you asked about Ojo. Ojo his last 2 visits are Texas and Oklahoma. Well, he's going to Ole Miss. He's got some big visits, Ohio State, Michigan, right? I mean, none of those schools know which. We all know Texas is probably the front runner right now, but how it's going to end, it's too early to say on this stuff unless somebody actually shuts it down. Turn time, I mean, Texas, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Kenye Pepe, I mean, everybody. Was it Texas, USC, Florida, Georgia, Miami? I mean, these are massive recruitments, and Bobby House settlement could play a part in these recruitments. But these are all, I mean, Sam Utu, Texas, USC, Cody Green, the Oregon commitment, Texas, USC, Oregon. I mean, these are massive recruitments. The one thing I will say is I can't tell you how 1 through 5, what it's going to look like come August, but I do know they're going to have 5 really good linemen in this class, because just look at who's visiting. Even the Malachi Lee, Michigan, Texas, USC out of Honolulu. The guys Texas are in on, everybody's in the hunt for. And it's going to work out as far as getting really good players. It's how it's all going to weave together and work out, and the timing of when a couple of guys commit, what that does to one of the guys left on the board. Does that knock Texas out? It's hard to say right now, Bobby, because the real NIL battles haven't really started beginning yet. They're starting, but it gets real here in May and June.
It makes total sense to me. I mean, having followed recruiting, there are ebbs and flows and times or pockets when you're going to see a number of commitments. And with the uncertainty surrounding the House settlement, which some believe could come as soon as today, by the way, I just don't, Blake and Jerry, I don't see how you're going to know how much money you have in the absence of some certainty around the House settlement.
Because we talked about it, but there's a lot of promises being made to kids right now in 7 figures who have committed elsewhere, and it may not be real.
No, and they're going to have to go and reconfigure that. And I don't think Texas ever wants to be in a position. And that, I will say this, that's one thing about Texas NIL folks. What they've said, they've done. So when they put it out there, they do it. So they're not going to be caught over promising and under delivering.
I didn't even mention Sam Roseboro. Texas is a clear leader for Roseboro. But again, Michigan, A&M, Florida. I mean, these kids all have. It's going to be really interesting how the dominoes fall. I just know enough of the dominoes are going to fall Texas way to where they're going to have 5 really good players in the class.
Okay, we have time for another question or two. And let's take this one from Brendan. He says, so will Christian Clark, or is Christian Clark going to be pushing for playing time this year? I remember when he was being recruited in high school, his comparison was Bijan, if I'm not wrong.
Not from us, it wasn't. Look, he's going to push for PT if he's healthy this year for sure. I mean, he's a really talented guy. I didn't have Bijan, Bobby. Of all the guys, and I don't think he's this. I don't think he's this level, but of all the guys, and again, I don't want people to think I'm saying he's going to be this good. He has a lot of Jaden Boss style in his game. Not Bijan, not that overly quick, violent. He has push through the ground violence, but not. I mean, Bijan's ultra quick.
Sark is the one that invoked the Bijan comparison. By the way, he did so in his signing day press conference. The thing with Christian Clark that I think is key is I do think he's if there is a guy, like I thought that hopefully Jarrett Gibson would be that interior runner for Texas and be able to run duo behind him and inside power. And I don't know that he just doesn't have that kind of vision combined with acceleration to do that. Christian Clark might, though. And I think I do think there's a chance he's pushing for playing time. And I think there's a chance that he's going to push Jarrett Gibson for the number 2 spot behind behind Trey Wisner in the absence of Cedric Baxter. So let's see what Christian Clark does this year. I'm actually a big fan of his, and hopefully he continues to have a good spring and remains healthy.
And our next question comes from Josh Roberts. He says, guys, how's Connor Stroh doing? I know he was a developmental player, but just seeing about him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's getting some second team, getting some third team reps. I think he's in a real battle with guys like Nate Kibble and Jaden Chapman in the backup guard spots. And his biggest thing is when there's large humans and there's guys that are just so big that it's hard for them to keep weight off. And Connor Stroh, he's a guy that's going to have a hard time ever weighing less than 350, Bobby. It's just he's so big. And the question is, from an athleticism standpoint, from a quickness standpoint, if his weight stays over 350, is he ever going to get there athletically to where he needs to be in the SEC? I think it's the big question. Works hard, practices hard playing guy.
Yeah, he's just behind. I mean, he's going to be behind Nate Kibble. That's one of the things that we were talking about, right? Young guys that are moving a little bit ahead of other guys. We'll see what it means. I mean, is he going to be a guy that is okay with being a backup at Texas? I think that's a fair question. We'll see where it goes.
And our final one for today, fellas, is a super chat from KD35. I am the best. Thank you again. Jerry, was there a reason why Jet Washington didn't visit this weekend? He's definitely important on campus before spring ball is up.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it centered around maybe Sark's dad.
Sark being a dad. Yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Yes.
Steve Sarkisian. For those unaware, Sark became a father yet again. L'Oreal announcing her newborn on Thursday. That actually happened earlier in the week, guys. Just so everybody who's aware, and that's one of the reasons why the media session was canceled on Monday. So it happened much earlier in the week. We had mentioned that Sark did miss practice one day. People made a big deal. Some people tried to make a big deal of it. It was not. It was because he was trying to take care of a newborn and his wife. So congratulations to Steve Sarkisian and L'Oreal Sarkisian this past week.
All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I want to thank them along with Timeline Gooder and Pesty all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. We appreciate each and every one of you. Bobby, what can folks expect later today?
Well, I tell you what, Blake, we've got a lot coming up. We've got Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel talking a little Longhorn sports and recapping some stuff from the weekend, and then a look ahead as well to what to expect from practices this week. Then Rod Babers, Coach Shipley get going on the winning drive along with CJ Vogel. Jerry and I come back and answer your recruiting questions tonight, and it could be some basketball news breaking as well as football news for Talking Ball at 7 o'clock this evening.
And don't forget, we can't be on here all the time, so be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. In on the discussion there, a great community going on that you're definitely going to want to be a part of. And if you're not a member, become one very easily. As I said, just head on over to ontexasfootball.com. When you sign up, use promo code OTFOG, and you'll be able to lock in an annual subscription for just $49.95, but only if you use that promo code. Remember, OTFOG. And we would appreciate if you'd hit that like and subscribe button as well. If you haven't already, ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime the guys go live, post content, whatever it may be. And between those two avenues, we got you covered around the clock.
Hey, I got one more thing I want to mention. We congratulated Steve Sarkisian and his new kiddo. I also want to say congratulations to Hayden Connor. Hayden Connor was married over the weekend.
Wow.
Had several offensive linemen there with him at his. I got sent some pictures just now. So congratulations to Hayden Connor getting married before the NFL draft. Good luck to Hayden and those guys. Hopefully they had a good weekend this weekend.
Look, Hayden, I know you married an A&M grad, but you can't wear the jersey. That's part of this marriage deal. Just so.
Well, we will be back same time, same
Right,
place
Blake?
tomorrow. Do what?
Right, Blake?
Yes. I was wondering if anybody was going to bring that up.
I was saving it.
Yes, I know all too well about being married to an Aggie, so it's all right. It's all right. She's converted. But we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook up.